Can you hear me now? I see myself lighting up. I feel better about this. Shadows on? Anyone?
Hello, what's up, Hotsauce? I can hear you.
What's going on? Good.
What's going
Man,
on? How's it
ah,
going?
it's going good. I just finished some yoga, so I feel all loosey goosey and relaxed.
Hey, man, some yoga, man. I've been told to do yoga many times, but the last time I tried yoga, I cracked my bones so hard, I never went again.
Yeah, it's not a contact sport, so I don't know if you were doing the right thing, but
Yeah,
no.
man, I'm not sure what it is. But
Yeah.
how you been? Though? How's your week?
It was good. It's busy, man. We've got the kids in like summer camps, and it's just nonstop, like being a taxi and doing all of those things. But it's fun, man. I went to a wedding last night and got a little sauced, so to speak. But you know,
Hey, man, and nothing wrong
yeah.
with joining laugh a little bit.
No, 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 not at all. You gotta live life, man. You gotta enjoy
It's
it.
beautiful to hear, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, today, looking forward to what you have got done for us this week. What a piece of your mind and a piece of your heart today. I'm looking forward to what you're
yeah.
about to drop us today. So
I
it's
think
about to
this
be hot.
is gonna be good for people to hear my convictions and my opinions, but I'll give a couple more minutes for people to file in. I know I ended the last stage because my mic wasn't working. I had some settings, incorrect as usual. It wasn't anybody else's fault but my own. But
Happen
yeah,
to
and
the
then I'll,
best of
I'll
us,
drop the
bro.
notes. Yeah, I know it happens to be regularly.
That happens to me so many times. Don't worry. So I'm a performer in Hong Kong, and when I perform, it happened plenty of time. Every time for some reason, it's never ready when you're ready for the show. It's always good when your sound check is all perfect until when it's the moment. For some
Yeah.
reason, fucked up. It goes to shit.
Hey, I do a sound check before every single AMA, and I've never had a problem. And so like today, I'm just like I'm just gonna start. I'm just doing this, and yeah, it's the one day I had a problem. So, but it happens.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But yeah, it's a beautiful day here. I hope it's beautiful for the rest of you. If not, just find the beauty in your mind. Sometimes that's the
Yes,
best we
sir.
can do. Give it another minute before jumping into my spiel, but posting a few other channels here.
In the meantime, why don't you tell us a little bit how you've been feeling this week? You know, beer market, it's beer market time. How you've been feeling on a moment during this time, spending your family? How's it going, everything?
Everything is good. It's a time of reflection. It's a time for people to really um, see what things are about and to really kind of. I think this is a great time to reset globally and collectively. Um, like we've all been grinding so hard in one aspect or another, and with all of the, I guess, kind of like negativity I feel in society and around the world, I think it's a really good time to to kind of do a little bit extra to take care of yourself and and kind of meet your needs so that you can go out refreshed and meet the needs of others, because we're all pretty stressed, it seems like, and that's the
Yeah,
best time to kind of sink back and appreciate yourself. Uh, that's so necessary.
that's true, man. I mean, it is, especially now in this times, it is a difficult times. There's so much going on, word news, left and right, COVID, this and that. So, so sometimes it's just good to, hear somebody else speak up and just speak their mind and hear their life and their story. So,
Yeah,
man,
we
that's
we
why
just had
I'm
it.
always excited for that.
We just had COVID. It was a terrible month. I mean, my wife was down for like a month. Brutal. We went 2 years without getting it, and that's a whole different topic. We can get into that another time. But yeah, today is the state of GameFi and how I see it, and not everybody has to agree. But let's get this party started. So when I hear the term GameFi,
Let's hear it.
a very specific definition comes to mind that crosses gaming with ownership. However, ownership can mean many things, and some people immediately link it to play to earn, others to gamified NFTs, and others think of full decentralization of protocol and governance. I'm not here to say that any of those definitions is right or wrong, as I believe this space is still a little ambiguous, and therefore the definition can embody all of those different qualities and still be correct. What bothers me the most in this space is play to earn, or as I have come to call it, play to extract. Imagine you're running a business, and to make profit, you have to exceed the expenses by bringing money into the business. You have a very sizable cushion to begin with, and you tell your HR department to hire at will and make sure that all the business personnel needs are being met. You want your new employees to be paid well so that they put the maximum effort into their job and feel appreciated. HR continues hiring people, and as time goes on, you realize that your employees are bringing very few dollars into the business, but the expenses keep racking up. You make some pay cuts, and some people leave, but there are still more that want in, and all of a sudden, you realize that you're spending heaps more on your employees than you're making in revenue. Instead of enthusiastic employees, now your workforce is spreading negative publicity and warning people that pay cuts will continue because the product isn't what they originally thought it was. Now your business is struggling for positive attention, but even worse, you burnt most of your treasury without making a profit. And this is the way of play to earn. You cannot have an extraction based economy survive for very long. I can't tell you how many times I've been told that a game has a 1 month ROI, only to find out that 2 weeks later it's now a 3 month ROI. And then 2 weeks later it's a 1 year ROI. And then I never hear about the project again. The reality is that there's absolutely no way that anyone can predict an ROI just because the value of the token or NFT is solely based on the consumer. Nobody is joining play to earn so that they can constantly invest into maintaining a baseline. Does this mean that I don't think GameFi is a viable solution? Absolutely not. Being one of the richest players on my WoW server led me to believe that if I could grind similarly in a mega popular Web3 game, I could take that in game currency and be financially rewarded outside of the game. But this is referencing World of Warcraft. There's no playable game in the crypto space with that user retention, popularity, player base, and therefore the competitive edge that drives sales is not there. Speaking to countless GameFi protocol CEOs, marketers, and the like, I constantly saw the same red flags where each studio had nearly identical roadmaps, wanted to create a metaverse, which is a ridiculously massive undertaking where only one or two contenders will prevail, and I'll touch on more on that in a minute. They all believed that their basic game was going to hook tens of thousands of gamers and grow exponentially, creating high buying pressure and being the next blockbuster. Most of these times, these studios lacked qualified developers. They would regularly post experience with EA, Riot, Ubisoft, and other well known studios, but when you really investigate what this experience is referencing, you come to find out that they were a junior effects artist on a small time app. I'm not saying that that guy can't design and produce a great game, but when you consider that Steam publishes nearly 1,000 games per day, you understand that there are an absurd amount of people wanting to make a name for themselves as a game developer. I won't name any names, but one such game producer that produced a hugely popular app was buying up small time studios left and right. Each one was in progress, developing the next best thing, and they were all claiming to have the exact same experience, same involvements. Yet, when I dug deeper, I found that none of them had this experience or any of these involvements. They were all advertising themselves as having this great experience in developing the same successful app. Yet the reality was that none of these studios had published anything noteworthy, and all the lead producers were similarly unaccomplished, and this is the first game that each one was producing. The rabbit hole is very deep. When I realized the coincidence, that led me spending time to see how many studios were in cahoots under this one umbrella, and there were many. Let's take another interesting factor into play. There are quite a few studios that use funds made from sales to artificially inflate their own market and cast false projections or false hype. Personally, I think there are many times when a project can justify buying their own product as long as it is done responsibly and publicly, and the NFTs or tokens are burnt, reused appropriately, or distributed back to holders. What is not acceptable is sweeping your own floor without disclosure to cause artificial sentiment, which then causes new buyers to jump in at a higher price before the floor drops when the buying pressure from the project stops. I've seen this done in different ways, and I will personally have no part in any project that creates false appreciation, no matter how successful I think that game may be otherwise. Let's talk about metaverses. Some people understand that, just like in real life, it's a massive undertaking to build a city, and it's an even more massive to build a world. Now you have to have people to populate that world, find a place to rent, find a business to earn money so that they can enjoy the leisure of that world. So to fund the building of a metaverse is immense, and to populate that metaverse is equally or even more of an undertaking. Then these people that are immersing themselves into this new reality must buy into the products that these outside developers have curated. I don't know exactly what each protocol has in mind when they claim they are building a metaverse. Many of them are starting as a single game and then expanding to more games that are interconnected through NFTs with a universal theme. And this can be described as a franchise at best, but this is not a metaverse. The products that are creating a true, immersive, complete experience are spending massive amounts of money and resources to accomplish this. And there will only be one or two that are successful. So please be extremely diligent when trying to decide if a metaverse has any value whatsoever. Many studios are coming up with alternative terms to play to earn, like play and earn, win to earn, which I think I may have coined, but anyway, all these terms are missing the point. What will truly be successful in this space is the same as what made any game successful in the Web 2 or traditional space: quality, acquisition, and most importantly, competition. Just because a game has ownership or voting doesn't matter one bit to the masses of people needed to support a project to success. A truly successful game will be one that appeals to the masses, just like in traditional gaming. It will have hardcore raids and guild tournaments that are fun to watch and even more fun to compete in. It will have microtransactions and consumables and all the things that make traditional games profitable. An extraction based economy is a ticking time bomb. No matter what claims are made in crypto gaming, the games that survive will be the ones that appeal to a massive gaming community, not a small niche of crypto enthusiasts and scholars that are trying to survive. Some people may be wondering if scholars are inherently contradictory to the success of a game, and the answer is no. Scholars will play an important role in many types of games, although the scholar model will not fit in other game types. It is far less about the fact that they are simply extracting through the ownership of another. What is more important for scholars to fit in an ecosystem is that they are farming resources that are necessary for competitive players to advance. If you're merely farming for tokens, then the ratio of extractors to injectors is going to be greatly skewed and therefore unsuccessful. I've seen a few games where scholars are really necessary to provide what can't be obtained without serious grinding. Many people don't have 8 hours to devote to grinding but want to advance in a game, and therefore will need to supplement with resources provided by these farmers. But I'll be completely honest that these games are few and far between. Additionally, the amount of resources farmed must be balanced by the consumption of these resources, which brings me to one of the most important points on the topic. If the in-game and token economies aren't both balanced with incredible foresight and detail, the game will not be successful. It's very easy to copy the vesting schedules and compare tokenomics from one project to another. There will be many games with a single token economy that are successful. The same can be said for games with two or three or more tokens. The number of tokens that a project employs is largely irrelevant. What is absolutely critical is that the tokenomics make sense for the specific game or specific application. For example, I can easily believe that a single token economy makes complete sense for a platform that publishes multiple arcade games. By creating multiple simple games that all rely on a single token, the publisher is not relying on one single game to drive buying pressure, and each new game that comes out will create its own pressure. When one of those games dies out, the ecosystem is supported by the collective strength of all the other games published through that studio or partnering studios, as is the case in some projects. On the other hand, a three token economy would be isolating and hard to integrate into multiple arcade games and very hard to balance. I've heard plenty of people say that this system works or that system doesn't, but the ultimate reality is that we haven't seen a successful game that boasts a million plus in revenue generated from existing customers in this space. Different tokenomics packages will fit different games, and there is not a one size fits all. I've heard some disdain for Aperon's three token system, but in my initial conversations with Frank, I really thought he was onto something. After taking the time to really apply it to what I knew of the gaming dynamics, gamer culture, and in game economic flow, I truly believe that the three token system is a great fit. Being an upper echelon gamer, I know that there are certain value drivers and that different utilities for each token are appropriate for the dynamic that they offer. I believe it's easy for a studio to present a white paper that shows a core game loop, because most core game loops are the same. It's easy for them to say, this is how our token economy and our in game resource flow will work, but the ultimate reality is that they have no way of knowing exactly who will be playing their game and what styles of gameplay, what motivations, what financial decisions their gamers will make. Don't be fooled by something that looks like a well conceived model. It goes a lot deeper than that. Speaking of well conceived, some projects have 90-page white papers detailing characteristics, and this shouldn't be a big deal. Unfortunately, so many projects are trying to pass off their product with too many vague points. They claim to have a docs team, but just posting a name is nowhere near doxing. Often I find that only one or two people are doxed, and after extensive investigation, I'd find out that the lead game developer has never had any sort of leading role, that the CEO is literally nothing more than an investor and knows nothing about gaming, or the team is full of artists and only has one developer. Do your own research is not just a cool phrase, it's extremely important. If you aren't sure, get a second opinion. Ask sources that aren't shilling the project. There are a ton of people in this space that live to pick apart projects and search for the true gems, of which there are very few. The length or detail of a white paper doesn't guarantee legitimacy, nor does it mean that project will fail because the white paper is only 10 pages. But when you read a white paper, you shouldn't have massive questions with glaring holes or red flags. Everything should be laid out plainly and simply so that you know exactly what the product is and how the team intends to accomplish their goals. Maybe I'm rambling about all the blaring problems that I've come across in this GameFi space, but it's important to understand that the success of a project in Web3 is no different than the success of a project in traditional gaming. When a AAA studio produces a game, you expect AAA quality. Having played and understood the groundbreaking effect that Diablo 1 and then Diablo 2, which held a number one position in its genre for over 4 years, Diablo 3 was a major letdown and led to serious repercussions. Not that it hurt Blizzard too much, but the faith of the community that had supported them was depressing and negative. In GameFi, we don't really have any promises of mega studios producing the next blockbuster, although some successful games and apps are integrating blockchain elements into previously published games. I've spoken at length about what I don't like in GameFi. Now let me explain what GameFi means to me and what I look for in a project before I get into the current affairs and future projections in GameFi. To be completely decentralized in all aspects and give full ownership to the users of the protocol has disastrous implications. And although people want to believe that they know what is best for a project, there are so many nuances, roadmaps, elements that are beyond comprehension of the average owner. Governance certainly has its place, and it would be foolish for any project to ignore their community and push out updates that disregard the complaints or positive suggestions from the people that truly sustain the community and ecosystem of a game. Decentralization has a small place in gaming. GameFi, or the combination of gaming with finance, is also a bit erroneous. but it does get the point across. Gamers spend time playing and supporting the game. Without them, the game would cease to exist, just like a company without employees would cease to exist. It takes more than a CEO or governing body to make all the cogs turn. Just like an employee wants to be compensated for their time, a gamer wants similar compensation. Traditionally, the gamer was rewarded by being entertained. But when a server is shut down or the online community diminishes to nothing, the assets, the achievements, the input diminishes with it. Now we come to GameFi, the incorporation of asset ownership into entertainment. And this is why I'm in this space. I know that whatever I earn on a blockchain derived game will have some value as long as there is also someone that values it. I know that this server won't be shut down because blockchain is stored all over the world, and as long as there are people to verify my transactions, I'll still be able to perform those transactions. This is a large blanket that doesn't fit every scenario, but the basic premise is that now I get to control what I've earned. To anyone that doesn't believe that Web3 gaming is the way of the future, I have some news for you. You can easily say that it might take many giant studios stepping into the asset ownership world before mass adoption occurs and people shed the negative stigma of the shady crypto space. This is the Wild West, and there are many scams, market fluctuations, and nefarious projects out there that are creating obstacles for the mass adoption to occur. Even more likely is that for many projects to successfully pull off the conversion into asset ownership, it will be done in a way that the average gamer doesn't even know that they are using blockchain technology with their assets held in a wallet and their items value pegged to ETH or some other currency. There are already studios that are taking this route. Others are creating free to play experiences on Steam that will have earnable items that can be sold on an exchange for cryptocurrency that people aren't actually aware of. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Education is the way of the future. There will be protocols, such as Polymos, that set out to educate users and grow adoption by starting at the very beginning, helping people understand all the inherent technology, and then moving forward to keep gamers protected from scams, learning about wallets, understanding how scholarship and ownership work, and then into game strategy. Education will lead the way to adoption. Education will lead the way to reputable studios joining this space, which is truly inevitable, thereby opening the floodgates for gamers to feel comfortable. My takeaway is this: you are literally here in this space at the best possible time. Your job now is to find the projects that will create a sustainable game once the conversions happen, where the majority of studios come into this space. You are here at the beginning of the next cycle. Yes, things were glorious and huge gains were made built on ideas and dreams. Get the bull market out of your head. Now is an even better time to be here than the bull market. Now you will pick and choose the most viable projects because the weaker ones that were trying to rush out pixelated hot garbage have died out or realized that just being in this space at this time isn't good enough. You should demand excellence from a game, not just join because of potential 1 month ROIs. You should be searching for the game that you'll be playing for years, watching your assets grow as the market rebuilds, whether it's gear, avatar, land, ships, currencies, or whatever it may be. You are here when the buy in is cheap and the price of being king is actually reasonable. Imagine trying to get into an NFT game after being successful for 4 years in an upcycling market. You are here when you can combine these cheap buy-ins with hard work and commitment that rapidly grow your assets so that you can cash out and retire in a few years. Do you think I'm crazy for saying that? Watch me. I'll prove it to you. This is not the time to be wowed by some unique aspect or some new cool gimmick. This is the time to hold any game being released to the same standard that you would apply to traditional gaming. And when you find your Aperon or Illuvium or Shrapnel or Azra or World Eternal online, and you realize that these communities are still small, but are producing a game that would be successful even if it were a Web 2 game, then you should be ever thankful that you were here first, ready to dominate out the gate, building a winning team or guild that will stand up to the Team Liquid or the FaZe clans and notable traditional gaming guilds. If you ask me, there is never a better time to be here than now. You have an amazing head start to sort through all the trash in this space, just like you would need to sort through Steam the same way to find the diamond in the rough. This is the best time to get a crypto education and understand all the pitfalls so that you can be the authority and the educator when the masses start filing in. Take this time to learn. Take this time to become the master because, in my opinion, you will never get another opportunity to jump into a revolutionary progression like you have right now. Be thankful you are here, be duty, and be prepared. That's my stance on that. Questions? You could type in general, by the way. I am looking at general for anybody that wants some feedback.
That was beautiful, man.
Thank you.
That was. Thank you for this advice. Actually, especially this is a talk you just deliver. You started on the top, telling us about how to be careful, being advising us, telling us we gotta look more deep into whatever we join, to bringing us into a current situation. You so I like how you mixed up everything. But I have a question, man. If you
Yeah,
hello, so I
go
have a
ahead.
question. So earlier you say that when you get into GameFi, most GameFi games, it's normal. It's normal that at first every GameFi, most of them they give you with like, oh, play to earn, play to earn. That's the first attractive thing that you get attracted to, right? As a first person, especially when I was first comer NFT, when I started knowing what NFT game is at first. So a
Mhm.
question is, how would you know, like when once you get into a community and you get to know, but everything seems all right, how would you know that okay, this is where you feel right? This is where beside just you feeling and you doing your research.
I mean, like, I think we. I'll be honest. Like, I got caught up in the ideas that were really going around, and like I made um I made six figures off of a terrible game. Um, and so, like I thought like, man, if I can do that in this game and if I can just be first to find these games and to get in and then just cash out at the right time, I'll just retire so young. Like it's amazing. And I think I was really misled by myself because I thought that that was sustainable. And all these different studios are coming out and just like I saw so many projects that were like, oh, we're gonna take this NFT sale and we're gonna use that to hire these developers and whatnot. The developers aren't out there. They're already being paid big bucks by good studios. They're not you can't find them. So maybe you can find a bunch of junior developers and people fresh out of college and whatnot. And I'm not saying that they can't do the job, but to have the whole team function as a unit takes time and experience. And so really like the the momentum of the bull market and all of these games with all of these promises and all of that really caught a lot of people off guard. And what turned out is, you could just get into anything and win quickly, turn the table, and it became like you had to be really diligent because most of these games are going to flop. If you wouldn't play the game, like without the play to earn aspect, then the game isn't going to make it because there's so much competition out there. Just like I said, there's 1,000 games being published on Steam every day. The average income when I was looking up all these statistics about like what a game producer makes when they publish on Steam and this and that, it's depressing. It is a grueling market. Everybody wants in, and so it's really tough. And so now a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I can abandon this whole Steam thing and I can just do this on Web3. I can sell this NFT." Um, I got my little Pixelmon out there, and and they just don't have what it takes. They don't have the team. They're not driven. They don't have the community feedback. Like, you have to have tournaments. You have to have competition. You have to have a bunch of people jumping in, being like, "I want to be the best, and I'm going to pay to get there." Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. You could grind. You could do everything you could, but at some point, you're not going to be one of those like top raiders without spending the cash. You can't catch up because there's so many other people out there that are already, as soon as a new character comes out, I'm buying that. And so if you don't have these elements, if you don't have this major franchise name pushing your product, or this massive community that's just all super gung ho, it's not going to make it. And you can usually jump around discords and check out the chat and see, like, are people actively in this? Is the team even talking and responding to people? I've seen uh I've seen games where people are having troubles, like cashing out their money and this and that. People only stand for that for so long. Because if I have problems cashing out my money today, even though you fix that tomorrow, I'm gonna be like, well, when's that gonna happen again? How many times am I gonna have to deal with this? How many times am I gonna have to deal with an incompetent team that can't, put out these hot fixes? Because being able to fix your game is super critical. And so when you can't find these developers, when you're just hiring people that are fresh, that maybe, pretty good at testing something and putting it out, but don't have the skill to troubleshoot and fix what's not going right. Just because it works in testing mode doesn't mean it's going to work um, when you put it out. Because usually
That's
things
facts.
break. Usually things break when you put them out to the public. But yeah, you really have to be diligent, and you really have to say, would I play this game if it weren't a play to earn game? If the answer is no, then the game isn't going to survive. Is the got a reputable team? Are they actually doxxed? Like, I've called people out, that called themselves docs, and I've had conversations with them about who they were supposed to be, and found out that they were lying about who they were. They were just using some name that they got, and did their research and found out this and that. But my job in Polymus was to do my due diligence. So you better believe I'm just going to do more than actually look at your paper and look at your LinkedIn. I'm going to go further than that, and really check you out. If the game is going to survive for 4 or 5 years in this space, you have the chance now to get in and just make crazy amounts of money. Because, just like I said, if you could earn all of these items in a normal game, if you're that type of gamer that enjoys going out and mining, and that's how I made all my money in WoW. I would go mine for hours, and I was a jewel crafter and whatnot, and that's all I did, and I'd go do my raids and whatnot, and and that was what made me rich. And so if I can do that, and a lot of people are totally fine doing that, and they wanna go out and they wanna grind and they wanna craft and sell items. If you can do that in a game, if you find a successful Web3 game, you can do the same thing and make good money, and not have to have a day job, because that will be your day job. And that's why I love this space, because you're actually in a position where you get to extract your work. And to have a game that's successful for years means that there's a lot of people coming in that are wanting to buy their way to the top, that don't have the commitment that you have to grinding and this and that, but they have a nice day job where they can just go on, you know, swipe their credit card, buy the items, go do their raids, and really just enjoy what they want to do. So there will be all of those elements, and there will be games coming out, and I'm really looking forward to kind of the end of the year, or the beginning of next year, when some of these larger games um, are fully playable. And yeah, I'm really excited about this space. Eric is saying since not everyone is able to do research properly about a GameFire crypto project before making an investment, especially new dudes, share some tips. And my favorite thing to say is make it public. When you want to know about the team, ping people, like don't be belligerent or anything like that, but no team should ever have a problem telling you about their accomplishments, how they intend to pull their game off. Just like somebody asked Frank about the runway and the funding of the game. If they can't answer that, then that should throw up red flags. You should always be able to ask things publicly and get the answers you want. And if you can't get the answers you want, then that's just really scary. Uh, I haven't followed this project, so I'm not going to call them out because maybe they were totally legit. But there was a project that it came out. Uh, the Discord came out of nowhere, and they did a really cool invite. Um, tournament or invite giveaway kind of thing, and so their Discord blew up really fast. Um, or maybe take Fractal. Um, I can pick on them. That was started by the Twitter CEO. He had a major Twitter event. Um, and got 120,000, or maybe it was 163,000 Twitter followers in like 3 days. And when you go look at the games that Fractal was getting behind, and apologies if any of you guys are fans of them, but they were literally jumping behind all of the Solana projects that they could without any care as to how successful those projects were. They literally were just going for the numbers game, and it was disturbing to see all the crap that they were, boasting and trying to project. And their numbers went from 120,000 Twitter followers or 100. It was a lot. I'm gonna go look them up right now real quick while we're on here, just because I want to see. Um, but their numbers were declining regularly, and that's really scary. Um, they're down to 72,000 now, so less than half as when they started, and that doesn't say anything to me that they're going to be successful in the long run. They're trying to sell their product on top of other products, and they used fame and notoriety to do that, but they didn't have any backbone behind it. So you really should be able to go and publicly talk about any aspect of the game, to ask tough questions. If you read a white paper and something doesn't make sense, bring it up. If they're months behind schedule, you can see and on their white paper roadmap or white paper, whatever the roadmap is posted on, if they're 6 months behind schedule from their token launch, and they only announced that they were delaying it the day before they were supposed to do it or the week before, that should raise red flags too, because they knew way before that they weren't going to have this out, and they were trying to rush and do whatever they could. And haste makes waste, folks. Don't I would much rather appreciate a project. No AAA game comes out like on time, you know, and anybody that does try to rush their project out is like full of bugs. Can't download the game, can't get in. You don't want to deal with that. Like we don't have patience for this anymore. Back in the day, first of all, back in the day, to put out a game with, that was buggy and wasn't fully play tested, and I'm talking like decades ago, that was unheard of. You had to make sure your game was 100%. And now we're used to playing, alpha releases and closed betas, and we should expect bugs. But you shouldn't be like the sole person that the project is relying on to fix their game. They need to have testers too. And there's so many small studios that are trying to accomplish big things. If you're trying to if a studio's trying to put out an MMO and they only have like 13 people on staff, not going to happen. The size of the team has to fit the game. If it's an arcade game, and they're putting out Pac-Man and stuff like that, yeah, sure, 13 people can accomplish that. It takes big teams to pull off games these days. There's studios in the space that have over 200 people, and they're struggling and need more people because of the size of the project they're trying to pull off. Blockchain has a lot of new things constantly being put out all the time, and they have to constantly keep up with that. So it's not just like, oh, what I did yesterday I can do today. You have to say like, oh, what I did yesterday needs to be applied to what came out today so that tomorrow I can match that, and then the next day I can go back to the drawing board and do it all over again. It's a massive undertaking. Don't trust what teams are saying. Like, you have to do your research, talk to people, look at their community. How honest is the team about their delays and their launches? Is the size appropriate? Do they have the funds to do it? Are they backed by like the right people? A lot of studios have like an Ubisoft grant or partnership. That doesn't mean that they are Ubisoft employees that have this large team with experienced game designers. That just means that they had an idea that Ubisoft said, "Oh, maybe I could make some money off of this. I'm going to put my name on it." It's just a name. Like, don't trust VCs. Um, there's I'll be honest, there's quite a few times where I see certain VCs on a project and I'm like, "Nope, not getting into that," because it's literally just a dollar sign to them. It's literally they just got on board to see if they could make a few bucks on it. And there's quite a few shotgun style VCs that are just like, well, I'm just going to put, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit everywhere. And if, 1 out of 10 pays off, I'm going to make my money back. Um, I don't care for these studios that want these names. I would much rather find a studio that is happy to turn down money. Um, because they want the quality of their game. They want value add VCs. A VC isn't a bad thing. These people make sure that these studios have the runway to pull off their project. And fundraising is very necessary. It's hard to work for a year without being paid. So of course they're going to need to go out and get their fundraising. Not everybody has the capital to put it up themselves and to make these things happen, because some of these studios are paying out $200,000, $500,000 a month to their employees, um, to make this game happen. So VCs aren't a bad thing, but there's a lot of names in the space that give projects a black eye, in my opinion. And there's some names in the space that when I see them on a project, I'm like, all right, I need to pay a lot more attention to this, because these are the diligent, critical folks that really make sure that the product is exactly what they're trying to sell. It's not just a name, or it's not just a gimmick. It's because they actually believe in this to be successful. And so there's very few of those, but there are a couple names that when I see them on there, I'm like, all right, this is legit. Um, just because I know that they have done even deeper research than I could have done. I've had the fortune of getting to talk to a lot of these studios. There's some that I had passed off, and I was like not enthusiastic about about taking a call with the team, and then after talking to the team, I'm like, "Wow, I was totally wrong." Um, like my research was incorrect, and that's totally possible too. There was one studio, and I thought, "There's no way they can pull this game off. Like, they're going for too much." Um, Gates of Eternity, if you guys want to know. But when I spoke to the team, and like the first thing that they admitted was like, "Hey, we had to take that project and scrap it because there was no way we were going to pull it off." I was like, "All right, you have my attention now. I'm glad you realized that. I don't know how much resources you guys wasted in getting to that conclusion, but they did the market research, and they ultimately came to the conclusion that what they were trying to go for wasn't viable." And so when they told me what they were doing, I was like, "All right, you guys do have a sound head on your shoulders, and you are proceeding correctly in this space." Um, it's there's a lot to researching a project, but anytime you have a red flag and that red flag isn't handled swiftly and comfortably, I wouldn't even go any further with it. Like, you're just wasting your time, because anytime you got a studio scrambling to give you answers or to cover up their holes and whatnot, it's just not sustainable. Like, there's a lot of good studios out there doing the right things, that these studios that can't get it together will never be able to compete in that capacity. Always go public. Always ask publicly.
Yeah. So, sus. So one more thing, one more question, man. One more to dry up the night and give us some more sus.
Yes.
I hope you can hear me. So, when you speak to NFT, when you speak about NFT to people, you hear about it's, a lot of people say GameFi is a baby, still a baby, and you speak. People say this is like it's a bit like gambling, right? So, but earlier you were talking about, when you hear about three token GameFi games, and I was it reminded me back a bit the first time myself I got into Apron, and I heard like, well, it's a three token make game. I was like, how is this gonna work, right? I mean, that was my mindset. So
Mhm.
I was shocked. But then I want to hear from your side because, of course, I got to understand a little bit more and still get to believe because people say this is gambling, it's still baby. So, what is your intake a little bit more about when you hear Apron, three token in economic game file? Like,
Well, I
it's not every
being
game that
like,
does that, right?
yeah, no, it's not. And you know, Frank is extremely intelligent. He has a background in finance, and he understands financial models. And so, I didn't really understand the point, because it is a juggling act, and they have a token, the APRS, which is kind of like the franchise token. Um, and so, that handles governance, and that handles, expansions and this and that. Um, and that is your basic token. And then the Ringularity, which is your difficult to obtain token, actually gives something else for the ultra competitive people. And since this is a guild centric game, since this is a social game, and I believe that you have to have a social game to be successful, because guilds and that social aspect really create a stronger bond in the gamer, where they're less likely to walk away when there are issues, or when something when they're waiting too long for a new release or a new update. It's the social aspect that brings people back day in and day out, and that makes it okay for people to be patient. And at the same time, for those that don't know, I built my success also off of having really successful guilds. where there's a top five guild in WoW or an undefeated guild in a game that I won't mention because of special interests. Um, these are the things that really drive sales. You know, by having people at this ultra competitive level drive sales, and by having tokens that other people can't obtain that gets them, special rewards or purchasable items that nobody else can get. That exclusivity drives competition and drives sales. So, Aperon makes sense because of the way that guilds will have to have multiple working components. You're not just going to have the top raiders or the top PvPers to have a fully functioning guild here. You're going to have the grinders and the farmers and strategists. You're going to have really a lot of the things that make any business successful. Um, and so I think that by adding that exclusive token, I think that's one of the smartest things that they could have done because that exclusivity and the things that that token will be able to purchase will really drive the competitive edge. This is a social game that requires a lot of different moving parts and dynamics, and so there will be a use case for all three tokens. There will be a purpose to all of them, and like I said, not every game has all of these use cases and all of these purposes. But I could assure you that Frank and his team have really done the the research and understanding that the governance token has its place because really governance is what has a huge part of the the GameFi space. I was about to say play to earn, but that would have been a mistake. Um, the anima, the play to earn tokens, you have to have these, and they're going to be useful for a lot of different things that will have a lot of dumps, so that way the balance is maintained. And the again, the Ringularity will have a very premium um, niche, and that niche is going to drive people to compete harder. And so I really feel like he's hit all three needs of a successful social game with high competition. He set out to create an esports game, and and to neglect the fact that these esports players want to get something that nobody else has, that would just be an error on his part. So I think it's really intelligent, and I think that maybe some more studios should really look at that. Um, it's I think it's harder to balance a two token economy when you have all of these different dynamics going on. There's a lot of games that don't have all of these elements. Like a first person shooter may not have the exact same because you have to be really good at being a first person shooter. You're not out there grinding and you're not out there doing these different things that add to this economy, this this market of needs. You're really just trying to be the best shooter there is out there. So a two token economy makes a lot more sense, or maybe even a single token economy makes more sense in that case. Don't take my word to the bank. It really is a case by case scenario that makes these things work. Um, I just know that for this model, for what has been presented to me, I really think it fits. Be happy to take any other questions, and in general, we got a few more minutes.
Interesting, man. That's good, man. Thank you for your thoughts.
Absolutely. I don't know if y'all have listened. I'm sure most of the people that are in this AMA have listened to Frank. Um, Frank will talk for as many hours as you need to, to understand what it is. So I really appreciate
It's
his
top of
attitude, his openness, all of that. Like he is the most accessible, um, team member that I've ever. Yeah, yeah. The Frank and I have had like many multiple hour AMAs or conversations. So yeah, he definitely is not shy to tell you every aspect of his product, and that's another thing. Like that should just go hand in hand. It doesn't have to be the CEO or the CTO or COO or whatever. It doesn't have to be an exec. There has to be someone in place that can answer your questions. I've had calls with marketers or uh, what do they call those? Like expansion specialists or partnership, managers that like literally couldn't answer gamer questions like dynamics of the game. I don't care about your business model. I care about the game. We're here to play games. We're here to find a game that is successful that I would play even when the next, new blockbuster comes out. Um, so if you can't answer questions about games and you're trying to sell a game, I'm done with you. I don't want to hear anymore. Your team is not coordinated enough or whatever. Like, this is about games. That's why we're here. There's, plenty of investors here that want to buy some assets and rent them out. That's only going to work in a few games. A lot of these people selling lands. The lands are not going to have the return that a lot of people think they will. On the other hand, there are a few games where the lands are going to make some investors an insane amount of money. And so I always really caution people about that aspect because it's a piece of the puzzle that wasn't, employed in Web 2, or let's say a game has it where you can own a raid boss. Um, I've only seen that one time, I think. But and if the boss defeats the party that spent the money to go into the raid, then the boss keeps the money. Yeah. Uh, yeah, Wiboon got it. But like when you're trying to throw out these like new pieces and this ownership and whatnot, like do people really want to spend money to go into a raid? I know when I was playing WoW that I had to do, X amount of farming to be able to buy X amount of consumables that were required to go into each raid. Um, do I want to pay money to go into that? No. No, I do not. I don't want to stake money to do this or like why should I have to have money to play the game? Like these these you have to own so much to be able to play is not sustainable. If 50% of the gamers come from Southeast Asia and a lot of these gamers are playing for a free aspect that don't have the same US dollar power that I have in America, can I really expect them to play my game where I'm requiring them a US dollar amount to play? It's just completely unfeasible and unsustainable. You need to have free to play experiences where people can come on. There's plenty of assets, and maybe it's a scholarship economy that has a rapidly scaling aspect so that it's very cheap and affordable. Like one of the reasons that Star Wars Galaxy Heroes or a lot of the games with in-app purchases were profitable and successful. They created something free. You didn't have to pay money to download it, and they survived off of microtransactions because people can afford $5 to pay, whereas they can't afford, $100 or $2,000 or however much to get into something. Paying $60 to get the uh, cartridge for your console is limiting. How many times are you going to go do that? You have to be really diligent and say, I really want that game to be able to say, yeah, I can afford to make this gamble that I'm going to enjoy this game. I bought plenty of cartridge games, back in the day that I was like thoroughly pissed off that I wasted my money on that piece of crap. And people don't have the patience. They don't have any of these things. So it's really um it's really not smart, in my opinion, for a game to have all of these different things that you can own because it requires money to own these. And we don't play games to pay into it to have fun. Like we want to have fun, and then once we're having a lot of fun, we're like, yeah, I can afford to pay more because I'm really enjoying this. Um, like I think what was so misleading about this is that in the bull market, people were making a lot of money off of flips and speculation and all of this, and now that all those hopes and dreams have fizzled and the ugly reality is here. I think people are coming back to their senses and being like, well, I just want to play a good game. Um, let me sell the rest of my ETH before that happens. Uh, wait, wait, yeah, 300 is possible too. But like really, I think you have to look through all the crap and you have to say, if I would play this game, if it were just a traditional game, if I would pay $60 for this game to download it or 10 or $20, for a Steam, or whatever, then right on that bet. But if they don't hook you immediately, if they can't answer questions, if they've got a copycat white paper that looks the same as everybody else's, they haven't put any effort into it, and that's going to translate into the profitability of the game.
Sauce. I
You're breaking up really hard, man.
for your whole life. You said a lot. Uh, now, check my mic. Hello, could you hear me now?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Yeah, so I was just saying, on episode one, when we first started this hot sauce, you went through a piece of your heart, a piece of your life, and introduce a big part of your story. And, and now you're giving us a huge. Actually, I feel like you're an advisor right here. You're advising me on the state of what's happening right now. Actually, so I like how you break down everything. So I'm looking forward to Hassas bringing on an episode 3. What's going to be next on next Monday? So thank you again for today, man. Appreciate it big time. That was a lot of
Absolutely.
sauce.
Very,
Thank you for
very
taking the
happy
time and answering this question.
to spread good words. Like people just need to know. Like we all had the wool pulled over our eyes, and now we're all kind of pulling that away and seeing things for what they are. So, like I said, great time to hit the reset button. Great time to be in this space and to be looking at projects that are going to be successful. I'm uh I'm here talking to you in this one because I have 100% faith in Aperon, and you know, they've been developing Aperon for, I guess, about 6 years now. And a few of the other games that I listed during my little spiel have also been developing their games way before blockchain was a thought in their model. And they just realized that this kind of like ownership is going to take over because people really do want to take their basketball home with them when the game is over. You know, like I don't want all my assets being controlled by a studio that can just shut down at any time. Because I quit playing WoW because I got hacked, and I lost everything. You know, I've been playing since vanilla, and I lost all my bind on account, items. I lost, all my titles, all these achievements that I'd made, and it was like the most disheartening thing that I'd really ever experienced. Like I had years of game time um, in that game, and so it was just like, wow, just like that, I lose everything. And so that's why I think Web3 and NFTs is really the way of the future because people want what they work for. You know, like, yeah, I'm getting some entertainment out of this, of course, too, and I'm getting friendships and social qualities, but you know, I want to be able to sell that sword. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm gonna end it on that note, and I'll catch you next week with. I haven't decided yet what'll be next week, but it'll be another piece of me. So
Drop
so
bombs. Hot sauce, hot
yeah.
sauce. Drop bomb. Hey, Frank is the AMA god, and you are the AMA angel, bro.
Thank you, thank you. I have a couple devoted followers. I try for you guys. Love you guys.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right.
Hot sauce, hot sauce, hot. Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. See you next Monday, 10 p.m. Same time, same place, same moment. Hey, don't miss out. Hot sauce. Nothing but the hot sauce.